Srila Jayadev Goswami Prabhu, Das Avatar Stotram. It's actually from the Gita Govinda, which is pretty amazing. As we think of the Gita Govinda as it is, this confidential writing about the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, their intimate pastimes, and generally we're not entering into that on the council of our Sri Guru Varga. But this is included there. And it's also interpreted in the Hansadutta of Srila Rupa Goswami. But for the purposes here, we read this line. It says, Chalayasi Bikramane Balim Adbhuta Vaman Paranaka Nira Janita Janapavan Keshavadrita Vamana Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare. You want to read the translation?
I'm not sure.
You're not there. Okay.
What's the first line of the Dasava?
Chalayasi. Chala.
Okay.
Yasi. Oh, right. That'll be the first line of the first verse.
Okay.
Pralaya Payodi Jale.
Excuse me, man.
Yes.
And so verse number?
5.
Verse number 5. Chalayasi. Okay, got it, Maharaj. So the translation. O Keshava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of a dwarf Brahmana, all glories to you. O wonderful dwarf, by your massive steps you deceived King Bali, and by the Ganges water that has emanated from the nails of your lotus feet, you deliver all living beings within this world.
Hare Krishna. In the Gita, it says, Puritranaya Sarunam Vinashaya Chaduskritam Dharma Sangsta Panartaya Sambhavami Juge Juge. That he comes yuga after yuga, age after age to protect the devotees, to rescue them, and to annihilate the opposition. It's interesting that we're saying Das avatars here, 10. Bhagavatam says, how many avatars are there? They are as innumerable as the waves of the ocean. But, so Dasa means 10 primary or of special significance. In the Bhagavatam, there's a list of 22, 24. And when that list is given, included Krishna, Balaram, told Sutta Goswami, he's retelling what he heard Sukadev Goswami tell Parikshit Maharaj. So we're told, perhaps Sanatana Goswami Prabhu says in his Brihad Bhagavatamritam Tika, when he's mentioning the list, he realizes the group there, they might take it that Krishna and Balaram, Krishna's one of the 24. So to make it explicit, abundantly clear, he says, Ete cha angsa kalak pungsa, Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. All of these are kala, they're expansions, they're angshas, they're parts. You can analyze the details. But Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. He's Swayam Bhagavan. He's the original Supreme Personality of Godhead from which all these avatars have come. But the next line says something that I always thought is peculiar. It says, Indrayari Vyakulam Lokam Mriddayanti Juge Juge. Same thing as that sloka in the Gita, Yuge Yuge. But here, Indrari means the enemies of Indra. So this, and Indra representing the Devatas, there's the Devas and the Asuras, and there's always some conflict, fine, between the devotees trying to go in a particular way, and then there's some opposition to that. It's the way of the world. Generally, this sort of pressure upon the devotees brings them to a higher stage of sharanagati or surrender. So, and which means taking shelter of the Lord. We'll hear about Jiva Goswami Prabhu, since of the Shadanga Sharanagati, the sixth, Goptritve, accepting the Lord as one protector. He's saying that's the primary anga or limb, and everything else is secondary to that, comes as a consequence to that, of taking shelter. Bhagavat Bhakti Tat Sarvam Iti Utsri Jividerapi Kainkarjam Krishna Padaika Shrayatam Sharanagati. Because Sharanagati gives everything, and it makes sense. It means taking shelter of Krishna, then everything else will fall into place as a consequence to that. But doing anything and everything, but not Atma Samar, offering the self to Krishna, does not deliver the desired result. It's a show, Airbajan. It's a fantasy. So, in the the great history of the universe, we should understand that Indra is a position. They have names, just like there's 14 Manus. We find out in these pastimes, there are also 14 Indras, and for different reigns. So Indra means king, actually. So the Indra of heaven, he has a particular name, But so it happens from time to time that some person in the opposition, by dedication in principle to Guru and following the scriptures and things, can ascend in terms of their mundane position and power, and even come to threaten the reign of Indra. Like we hear Vishwamitra Muni, through his yogic practice, Indra was starting to feel pressure, summoned one of his heavenly dancing girls, Menaka, and sent her to distract Vishwamitra. There are many instances like this. Sometimes there's that matter can be solved like that, And there are other times when it's beyond what they're capable of doing. And we find, as Bali Maharaj, remember, and even in the Gita it's mentioned, of the Daitya demons, I'm the devoted Prahlad. Right? Hiranyakashipu, not a devotee. Son Prahlad, a devotee. And then it goes back and forth, back and forth. So this Bali Maharaj, his grandfather, Prahlad Maharaj, but at the time, and we can say out of a necessity of Leela, really, Bali Maharaj representing the Asuric side of things, and ascending in power and threatening the reign of Indra, who summoning the Lord and all the great devotees and those who are controlling the universe, they come to the understanding that Bali is so powerful. He's basically taken over the whole universe, and now he's threatening the king of heaven. Indra and the devotees are told that it will be better for you to go what's like exile, incognito, to hide for some time. because whatever power you have, he's more powerful. Bali and his entourage, just like in military, you have to have a realistic assessment of your opponent, and in Russian military history, this has worked to their advantage at times. So they decide to go into hiding for some time. And so Bali's taken over everything because they're told, only the Lord can save you right now. And if you've read Bhagavad Gita, there's hope, because he appears from time to time to rectify situations like this. We'll get back to you. They go into hiding. Bali Maharaj is now controlling the whole world, the so-called three worlds. Right? But a parallel story is about Aditi and Kasyapa Muni, and she's wanting, for various reasons, that the Lord would appear in her family. Very simple-hearted lady, but like the Lord to appear. And told, actually, Kasyapa, at a particular point, realizes that the Anksha of the Lord has appeared within him. Talk about Avesh. Like, he's aware of this. Kasyapa Muni. And like we heard recently, Tene Brahma Hrida, the heart transmission from the heart of Vasudev to Devaki, from the heart of Kasyapa to Aditi, Vamanadev appears. So he's sometimes known as Upendra, the younger brother of Indra. Indra's little brother. Little we shall see. Don't, how do you say, looks can be deceiving. And that's part of the beauty of this particular pastime. No stereotypical absolute in Krishna conception. Always, defeating logic, rationale, the stereotype, what is expected. But when Vaman appears like a four-armed Vishnu form, and everyone is happy, and there's some appropriate reception, but he reveals he actually has a plan. There's a purpose for this avatar, right, that's thematically consistent up to this point. And it would be unfair, you could say, as Vishnu to just, and it wouldn't be as much fun or as interesting. Krishna has vilas, like happy, fun pastimes of the Absolute. He can do everything by his glance, by his wish, Ichcha, Krishnera Ichcha. Gurudev always talked about the way he'd say it, the wills of Krishna. Just by willing Krishna's will, but it is his nature, Anandamayo Vyasat, that he's full of joy and fun and play. But his play is the play of liberation. Discussing that play will liberate us from our present entanglement. Hearing about that play will liberate us. So, although he appears at first in that form, Vishnu form, then he takes the form of a dwarf Brahmin boy, but who's, looking very nice. He's you can imagine how cute he is. And he has little padukas on his feet, some like ankle bells, kinkini. He's gifted an umbrella. He has a little brahmachari stick, like a deer skin. Each god they're all like so enamored by his beauty and charm. They all come offering different things: a deer skin, a kamandalu, the brahmachari stick, his umbrella. And they're also worshiping him, offering so many prayers. Right. And his mother's, of course, very happy. And since he's a Brahmin boy, brahmachari, like we see the monks from the temple every day, around 6 a.m., they leave the ashram, the temple, and they go to beg some alms. So that's very natural for him. The first person to give him alms was his mom. Your mom will always be like, "Here, son." But it almost doesn't count. No, I mean it does. But you can expect your mom to be generous. But Aditi gives the first alms to him, which is, I think, very sweet and very heartwarming, affectionate. But then he's off. He has, as Gurudev would say, some job to perform. And what's interesting, what is described in the Bhagavatam, remember, right now, he's the dwarf brahmachari with the umbrella. But as he's walking, he's been described in Veda as Adbhutakram, he of wonderful stride. So even as a dwarf brahmachari, when he's walking, the earth is, what's the word? It's depressed from his steps. Even before he gets there, the earth is, each one of his steps, it's Adbhutakram, I mean, his soft lotus feet are pummeling the rubies on the head of Kaliya. Right? Banyasraje kavala vetra vishanu venu lakshmashmiye ridu pankaja pankajaya. And the Brahma Vimohanlinga, his soft lotus feet touching the earth of Vrindavan. So many descriptions of the wonderful strides of the Lord. When he is running toward Kamsa to drag him and kill him in the arena. Sometimes it's the walking of Krishna is compared to a baby elephant, the way baby elephants move. Adbhutakram means wonderful stride. Trivikram. Three wonderful strides. That means movement. Right? His divine movement. He is not a static absolute. Imagine a moving absolute, and his movements are all wonderful and beautiful, right? And victorious, glorious. And as Guru Maharaj mentioned, once actually in Moscow, in Koselny, this person was visiting who was a self-described Vedic scholar. Right? And we had a little dialogue. And I mentioned to him, I said, the Puranas, the original Vedic scripture revealed, the original holy book of all holy books is the Rig Veda. Right? And you talk about religious books, that's the first one, Rig Veda. That's what it says, Adbhutakram, he of wonderful stride. But it doesn't tell you the details of that. Just that divine seed so many things can spring from there, from that soil. So, but Purana, the Puranas, in a chronological sense, they come after Veda. Vedas first and Puranas come later. With what, for what purpose? Purana means to fulfill, to supplement, means what was described there, Abu Takram, the Puranas will fully express that. It'll be fulfilled in Puranic description. Right. But Guru Maharaj makes it, and another meaning of Purana is old or oldest. So just like Upendra, Ramanuja, okay. Here, how can the Purana be the oldest if the Rig Veda comes first? The rational mind cannot digest. Right? So Srila Guru Maharaj explained the Puranas, why they can be considered older. They have information, if you will, or Leela, pastimes, from previous creations. If the Rig Veda is the first book in the creation, even though the Purana will appear later chronologically, it can have pastimes from past creations, and therefore in that sense be older than the oldest. So when I told this person, he said, "Oh, no scholar will accept that." I said, "Exactly. That's the problem." I said, only devotees have insight to this kind of understanding. It's beyond, jnane prayasamudapasana eva. Your brain will explode long before you get here. This is insight from the hearts of devotees, and how wonderful and illuminating that is. So, as Vamanadev, he at wonderful stride, Adbhu Takram, is simultaneously, we're told, Bali Maharaj is engaged in some sacrifices. And when Vaman arrives, he's so brilliant, his effulgence, that the members, and they're thinking like, is this Agni Dev, the fire god, who's walked into this assembly? Wow. Someone else. Or is it Surya, the demigod of the sun himself? He's come to our assembly? Or is it some even higher divine personality? And of course, Bali Maharaj is charmed by the beauty and the radiance and brilliance of Vamanadev. So he is showing his respect, and then, and this beautiful brahmachari has come to our assembly, and wouldn't this be the perfect time to give some alms? But first we must receive him properly. Right? So we're told, what is that? To wash the feet. Feet are mentioned in here, chalayasi. What does that say? Vikramane balim abhutabam padanaka nira janita janapavan. How significant that is, we'll see. And so he washes the lotus feet of Vamanadev, which is a very good decision. And then, like Gangadhar Shiva, who's the Ganga is carried on his head, the foot bath of Vishnu is worshipable. Bali Maharaj is taking that water on his head, sprinkling on everyone else's head. So now in essence, their existence is consecrated. We're told in the Charitamritam, but consistently throughout Bhagavad literature, of the power of the dust from the lotus feet of the Lord and the devotees, the water that has bathed their lotus feet, and their uchista, their remnants. So already we can see this is heading in a very auspicious direction. And then Bali Maharaj thinks that, this charming brahmachari, some alms would be in order. My dear boy, what can I offer you? And we're told that Vamanadev, remember, he's the dwarf brahmachari with the umbrella, little kamandala, and he says, oh, I would like 3 steps of land, and according to my stride. But remember, his stride is adbhutakram, wonderful stride. But he said, just according to my, like you would think, like you would get the tallest person you could find, and then they would stretch their legs out, and minimally that. But he's saying, no, I'm a dwarf, I go 1, 2, 3, like that. That'll be enough land for me. And we're told, Bali Maharaj is saying like, oh, a mere boy, obviously not really experienced in the world and life. Let me share some of my experience with you. I'm perhaps not the most intelligent. You think, when you come to someone like me, you ask for something that can't be topped. That like, once what you ask for, there should be nothing further required after that. It's as if Saraswati is speaking through him. So he's saying, when you ask something from me, you should get everything. Saying, so 3 steps, do you want to reconsider? And Vamanadev said, well, part of Brahminical culture is that when you're begging, you should just beg what you need. And that's all I need. For what I want, I only need 3 steps. Shouldn't ask for more. That would be against the principles of religion and not good. Bhagavad Gita, Paritranaya, I'm following this. So I'm only asking for what I need. And actually, I only need 3 steps. Then Balaram, suit yourself. But Shukracharya, his guru, he's nervous. And he's thinking, don't do it. Says, you don't understand who this is. He's in the guise of a door. It's Vishnu, your old enemy, who's like killing your family members and destroying your material prosperity. He will take everything from you. And then he gets in some technicalities as though those who study Sanskrit like to do. Like, well, see, if you don't say Om at the beginning of a promise, then it's not a real promise. And he starts going through a whole list of things he learned in the Sanskrit dictionary. Right? And then he's also telling, there are certain times when lying, if people say, well, you promised, then you broke your promise. There are certain times when lying is not forbidden. And the list, one of them, is like when you're telling a joke, we understand these things are not necessarily true. It said, in speaking to women, why it says that, I don't know. And to save your life, to save your property, there are times when you might not have to be entirely truthful. So Bali Maharaj is counseling him in all these ways to deny the personality of Godhead who is before him, asking with an ask of 3 steps. So it's also mentioned, and the parsing of the verse, Guru na sashat, Svajano na sashat, Pita na shashan, Devim na shashan. What the rest is. Namoche yak samupetam rityum. That there are certain times when one does not have to obey so-called guru. And it says, like, because parent is guru, so in that instance, Prahlad. Husband, sometimes taken as guru, the the Vipra Patnis, the wives of the Brahmins, they're going. Devi, different ones. So, Bali is here, his actual guru, Shukracharya. And remember, not only is his guru, but he brought him back to life from death. So it would seem the verse says, Namoche yak samvapetramityam, if they can't save you from mortality, then they're not qualified. Bali Maharaj actually Shukracharya brought him back from the dead. And he's not going to follow his advice. Because he's thinking, what is your real qualification if not to promote my surrender to the Lord? And the Lord Himself is before me. If you say it is the Lord Himself, should I not offer myself to Him? And His whims, if they be His whims, to take 3 steps of land. Are you mad? So, but Sri said, no, you understand, with the first step he's going to do that, with the second step this. You want to be able to fulfill the promise. He'll take everything in 2. Right? The old 1-2. Right? The original 1-2, we might say. So, but Bali Maharaj, remember, he's also a Mahajan. So we can expect he's going to do the right thing. Mahajano yena kata sapanta. To set the example for Allah. And of the Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Bandhanam, Dasham, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. Bali Maharaj. To offer himself, and we'll see that. So, he ignores Shukracharya and says, take your 3 steps to Vamanadev. And so Vamanadev, he starts expanding from his dwarf form into this like Virat Rupa. And you see all the lower planets, they're included within, as his foot goes up, they're lower and middle planet, and his first step, everything, the stars, the sky, the planet, they're in his chest, and with his second step, he's covered the 3 worlds, Bhur, Bhuva, Sva. And some descriptions say, with his second step, he poked a hole in the shell of the universe, and then the Ganga comes flowing in. So, everything he's taken in 2 steps. But the promise was 3 steps. Right? So that hasn't been met. So Vamanadev, now he is also reducing, like Vishwanath and Gita. Krishna shows Arjuna Virata Rupa, then returning to Krishna form. And Vamanadev said, do not cheat me. What cheating? You promised 3 steps. So in 2, I've taken everything. There's a verse in the Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada, like to quote, about his own life. It's actually in the meeting of Guru Maharaj and of Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj and Gurudev in Mayapur. They reflect when they met each other and Prabhupada's former life. And it has, when they're talking about his former life dissolving, and he says, Yasyaham anugrane harishe tatanam shanai. Because it's told, why the Parikshit Maharaj says to Sukadev, why Shiva who only wears ash. His followers have so much opulence. And Vishnu, who's got the goddess of fortune massaging his lotus feet, his devotees are all paupers. This is confusing. And Sukadev said, because if the Lord cares for you, he takes everything away from you, all this mundane distraction. And that's usually when all the smiles on the faces of the devotees disappear and they start getting worried. They're like smiling up to that point, then they're like, he's saying he takes away, and so then he's saying, well, then put it this way: if you have some mundane asset, then maybe think like, maybe I should use these in the service of Krishna.
Good idea.
Otherwise, he'll take them away if he cares for you. So Prabhupada's saying, like, who could be more sincere than Prabhupada? He's like, the devotees always have this fantasy, I'll become this or that, and with all the money I get, then I will promote Krishna consciousness. It's like, what is it? Folie à deux. Many, shared madness of many that like this thing, like, I'll just do this and I'll make a lot of money, then I'm going to build a big temple or spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. Prabhupada thought like that. And him, we could believe it. But that was not his path. Krishna took everything away from him to the point where he was in Vrindavan writing postcards to Guru Maharaj saying things like, the only thing that remains of my family life is a long list of names. He said, now that I'm penniless in Vrindavan, no one wants to have anything to do with me. But in that meeting with Guru, they're laughing. Prabhupada, you can hear them chuckling, saying, quoting that verse, Yasyaham anugranami anugraha, meaning he likes you. Hari she, Hari, meaning Hari she tadanam, it takes away all your so-called, to do what? To make you dependent upon him, who's got the goddess of fortune, massaging his holy lotus feet. So because Krishna loves Bali Maharaj, and really what this whole pastimes have been arranged. He's taking everything away from him. Even we're told his soldiers, they start to fight with and they call, stop, it's good, I'm okay with this. Don't misunderstand. Then, so Vamanadev saying, the third step, told you, Adbhutakram, you should have got Vaishnava to interpret those Vedas for you, instead of this Shukracharya. Right? Wonderful stride. Even if you think I'm a dwarf, as a dwarf he does it. So it contradicts stereotype, rationale, and the mundane mind dissolves by hearing these pastimes. So then Bali Maharaj, to keep up his side, his promise, his vow to be truthful, says, my Lord, you may place your third step of your lotus feet upon my head. Then Vamana puts his lotus feet on his head. And so at last Bali, because he took everything else away from him, so that the only thing left was himself, and that he offered to the lotus feet of the Lord. Then we begin to understand what is the purpose of this pastime. Think about it. We hear in the Brahma Samhita, what is it? Yashayika Nishvatabalambya Jivanti Loma Vilija Jagadanda Vishnur Mahan Iha Kalavishesho Govinda Maripurusha. We're told from his form of Mahavishnu, from the pores on his hand, universes are coming out. In his outward going breath. If he can generate innumerable universes, why should he appear in one of them and try and claim that or possess that? It's a yawn for Mahavishnu to generate innumerable universes. So then as the Vaman avatar, he's very eager to possess this one universe. He needs to get that back. Right? He's generating innumerable universes. That cannot be the purpose. But thematically, from the devotional point of view, he's taking that away. Right? The so-called world needs to be taken away from us. Right? We need to not have faith in the world. Right? Have him take the world away so that we can offer ourselves in service. So that was the purpose. And then, of course, the happy ending, Bali Maharaj is given Sutal, which although it's at the lowest part of the universe, is like beyond the heavenly planet. And Vaman later serves as his doorman in another form, and he becomes the exalted Bali Maharaj. But while this is all happening, all this wonderful surrender and devotion, like the full moon appearing in the sky, fully illuminated, Prahlad Maharaj appears. And then everyone's happy. Prahlad Maharaj expresses his happiness that his grandson has surrendered to the Lord in this way, and everyone is remembering the faithfulness of Prahlad Maharaj, and it's very wonderful in so many ways. And the helping us understand all these things is Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhu. Like when Guru Maharaj says, Jivadye abharakshitam sukashiva brahma samanitam. Rupa Goswami particularly, but Rups and Raghunath Das, they're writing all these inconceivably wonderful things about the pastimes of Radha and Krishna and Vraja Gopis. What they're giving is beyond the need for explanation or any such thing. It's just pouring out of their divine devotional hearts. Still, in this realm, there are those who will say, well, where does that come from? Or how does Rupa Goswami know what this queen said to that queen? Or all these things that are being expressed there. Because Sri Rupa descended from that plane and sometimes describes that. And sometimes what Sri Rupa writes is like live stream reality. Rupa Goswami writes reality. Reality comes streaming out of the pen of Sri Rupa in pearl-like writings. So Jiva Goswami Prabhu has the service of protecting what is given by Rup and Raghunath and Sanatan and showing its basis in the Puranas and the Bhagavad and his Sandarbhas, Satsandarbhas, and giving you could say, the ontological basis, how all of this is not only possible, but real and to be accepted and embraced. So sometimes Srila Gurudev would mention, normally, when anyone comes in connection with Krishna consciousness, whatever mundane assets are brought, they're offered in service at that time. And that includes like education, levels of scholarship, whatever. But out of service necessity, Gurudev mentions, Jiva Goswami, he went to Benares, studied Sanskrit, because he knew this particular service awaits him. And Sanskritians are fault finders by nature. So they're always looking, oh no, that particular case would indicate this kind of thing. Right? And which we see in the past times. When Balabhacharya is visiting and sees some writing on Rupa and tells her, oh, I think you should correct this to read like this. Rupa Goswami like, oh, okay. Yeah. But then later, at the Jamuna bathing, Jiva Goswami can't tolerate this. Rupa Goswami is his guru. And that someone will find fault with the faultless Srila Rupa Goswami is intolerable to Jiva. So he was also younger at the time. He took care of the Goswamis. And he does menial service. He's like down at the Jamuna, like washing the pots, or and tells Balabhacharya who's down there bathing, he said, actually what Rupa wrote is perfect. What boy? What do you say, son? Yeah. Saying what Rupa Goswami wrote is perfect. No, there was a fault. No, there's no fault there. Like, please hear. He explains to him from the Sanskritian point of view why what Rupa wrote is perfect. Then Balabhacharya says, oh, you're right, I didn't consider that. Thank you. Returns to Rupa and says, who's that boy down at the Jamuna? Your menial servant. Why? Well, he explained to me why what you wrote is actually perfect. And why what I thought was a flaw was actually a fault on my part. And Rupa Goswami went like, I think I know who it is. So, Rupa Goswami still doesn't like this. He's willing to indulge someone like Balabhacharya and his scholarly arrogance. So he calls Jiva and says, like, I can't tolerate this in my ashram, so you're out. And ousts Jiva Goswami from his ashram. Right? And then, remember, we hear from Srinivasacharya, the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, how they're they stay under a particular Kalpavriksha tree for a few days, then they're going to another one like that. So Sanatana Goswami Prabhu moving in the plain of Vrindavan, Jiva Goswami, their paths cross. And Sanatana Goswami Prabhu is saying like, I thought you were staying with Rupa. And Jiva Goswami said, he ousted me from his ashram. Sounds like Babaji Maharaj when he's ousted from Chaitanya Saraswati. And Sanatana goes, why Rupa has done that? And he explains the situation. And Sanatana Goswami knows the heart of Jiva Goswami and knows the situation, because also once when a scholar was, when they say Digvijay, that means someone is going in every direction, conquering others, the Digvijay Pandit. So they go to some town and challenge everyone, defeat them, the people sign, I was defeated by so-and-so, then they go to the next place, and this way they have some scholarly name and fame. Nadanam najanam sundarim kavitam ba jagadisha. Kavita is not often given, it means the Guru Maharaj deals with this in the beginning of Prapanna Jivanamritam, and craving the position of a poet. But what is a poet but, as someone said, the arbiters of reality? That's why it's so prestigious. The prestige of a poet. They're the ones who tell us, this is what is real. Go in this direction. Right? So one such scholar, he wants to debate Sanatana Goswami Prabhu. Sanatana Goswami Prabhu, like, oh, where's your book? I was defeated by you. go. I'm writing the Brihad Bhagavatamrita and I want to break my concentration. You know, he goes to Rupa goes, oh, I sign. I'm writing, Lalita Madhava, don't disturb me. And I think, oh, I've got the signatures of Rupa and Sanatan. Goes to Jiva, do you want to just sign? I already got signature from Rupa and Sanatan. Jiva goes, that's impossible. No, I'm serious, I got it right here, let me see that. Shows it to him, Jiva Goswami, that is impossible. I'm their humble, lowly servant. You have to defeat me before you can get to them. And then Jiva Goswami annihilates that person. We're told, fortunately for him, it's like liberating annihilation, not the regular kind. And he becomes devotee afterwards and hit new course correction. No longer he's Digvijay. So, Sahajiyas say, how is this following Mahaprabhu's teachings, Trinadapi Sunichena? But as Guru Maharaj would say, Trinadapi Sunichena to whom? Not if they come to molest the deity, assault the Vaishnava. That's not me, oh, Trinadapi Sunichena. No, then like fire, we will defend the deity, the Vaishnava, Guru. So not on his own account. This is real humility. In fact, he's willing to sacrifice the reputation of being a humble Vaishnava. That people will, he's willing to accept that people will think, he lacks the humility of a Krishna Das or others, as they say about Vrindavana. Right. No, to maintain the prestige of his Guru Varga, he's willing to sacrifice the reputation of being a humble Vaishnava. Sri Jiva Tejastiti. Remember, it said Srila Saraswati Thakur, like that. That same Jiva of Jiva Goswami, that same sort of scholastic level of ontological and scholarship, but to maintain the prestige and the dignity of Bhakti Vinod Thakur and the Rupa Nuga line. And Jiva Goswami Prabhu, it was he, as I said earlier, who said, of the Sharanagati Goptritve. That's how it's thematically consistent with the Vaman avatar and the pastime with Bali Maharaj. Saying, accepting the protection of the Lord, offering yourself there, then everything comes as a consequence to that. So, and as we are Rupa Nugas, and I told Swarupa Nugas, we're also Jiva Nugas. Those Jiva being the follower of Srila Rupa Goswami. And there in Radha Damodar, taking care of Rup Sanatan and so many other Vaishnavas, and his deity, Radha Damodar. Hare Krishna. So Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhu Avirbhav Mahamahotavititi Ki Jai. Madhusudan Maharaj, please say some words in praise of Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhu, as you've heard from Srila Gurudev.
If you ask, well, first I can mention that when Srila Gurudev is talking about Jiva Goswami, his qualities, describing also Jiva Goswami as the protector of devotion, as Guru Maharaj also the protector of devotion. As Srila Goswami Maharaj pointed out, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, they giving so many truths, but not necessarily giving the why behind it all. They're telling the truth, they're presenting what is there. And then, but Jiva Goswami, through his erudition and through the blessing of Nityananda, who sent him to Vrindavan,
yes.
And there is some description that he got the blessing of Shiva, in Kashi. This way, very quickly, he was able to capture the devotional understanding because he came as a devotee to learn the grammar, etc., so he could render service to Rupa and Sanatan. And so Jiva Goswami, when he came to Vrindavan, he was properly equipped. He was well equipped to do his service. And there he is protecting the devotion, protecting the devotional teachings of Rupa and Sanatan. So Gurudev would invariably give some parallel with Guru Maharaj and saying about Guru Maharaj. In some aspect, Guru Maharaj was very much like Jiva Goswami, protecting what Bhakti Rockcock, yes, protector of the devotion, protector of what Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has given, and the protector of what has come before from their predecessors, from Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Jiva Goswami. So we know when we read the books, we have to read the books in association with devotees, not just to go by ourselves and try to analyze things. We need to read the books with the devotees. So similarly, we need to know the nature of the devotees and what they've presented from the devotees. So the message of Rupa Sanatan and the message of Jiva Goswami, as we've heard and understood through Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, this is the very safe, protected channel for us to understand what has come from before. And
let me just interject one thing, because you remind me, I didn't. So, to conclude, when Sanatan went to Rupa Goswami,
yes,
and said, because we hear these things, Jiva, Nama Ruchi, Jiva Doya, Vaishnava Sevan. These three things, sometimes distilled as the essence of Vaishnavism. So Sanatana Goswami is telling Rupa Goswami, what kind of Vaishnavism are you practicing? Like, what? I wrote Bhakti Prasamrita Sindhu, it's the book of devotion. But what kind of Vaishnava in your ashram? There, Nam Ruchi, Vaishnavism, Jiva Doya, mercy to the Jivas. And there's one Jiva nearby, he's crying and so sad, and you're not giving him shelter. And then Rupa goes, all right, he can come back. And as you say, wasn't it Nityananda Prabhu and Jiva Goswami who did the first Navadip Dham Parikrama?
Yes. This I was actually just about to mention, because that's the lead up to how he went to Kashi and then on to Vrindavan. Jiva Goswami is the son of the brother of Rupa and Sanatan, Anupam. He was the son of Anupam.
Yeah.
But he's so the next generation, as Maharaj pointed out, younger. And so he was younger, and perhaps 9 years old, I may not have it exactly right, but around that age, then Nityananda Prabhu took Jiva Goswami one-on-one, personally, on parikrama of Navadip Dham to show many places, including going to Sachi Mata's house and Sachi Mata feeding them. An amazing parikrama. But that is recorded by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the Sri Navadip Dham Mahatmya. And so this also is a super treasure for us, but he's very enamored, of course. Jiva Goswami is so enamored with Navadip Dham, hearing the glories not only of Mahaprabhu's pastimes, but from ages ago, from long ago, the great ascetics and people who are coming to do austerities, penances there in Navadip. And he's so happy there, and he's very charmed. But Nityananda Prabhu said, yes, but Mahaprabhu has given your place of seva as Vrindavan. He's given your family's place, Rupa, Sanatan, and you, as Vrindavan. So you go to Vrindavan and you render service to your uncles, Rupa and Sanatan. And hence, he's going first to Kashi to prepare himself to serve properly. But also, being younger, he looked after, not only has his head in the scriptures, etc., but he was younger, so he facilitated many things. He looked after the 5 other Goswamis and other Goswamis, including Bhurgava Goswami, etc.
And at Radha Damodar, when we first went there, and where Srila Prabhupada has a room, there was this one area long ago that we would be told was the Goswami's prasadam room, where Jiva Goswami would arrange for them to take prasadam.
Was that just to the left of the temple?
I believe so.
Yeah, because there was a room reserved which had the 6 Goswamis, but I'd heard it was also where they gathered together. Just to
but
the
we
side
would
of
be,
the
I'm just saying, in the beginning, they would say, this is where they would take prasadam
together.
You can imagine.
So Jiva Goswami, he arranged for the other Goswamis and the esteemed, the senior Vaishnavas to come together, and at the Radha Damodar temple, which is the central place of Vrindavan. So he arranged that, and we know the Goswamis, they would travel and they would stay under different trees, but in older time, then means showing older age, then Rupa Goswami, in his older time, he was given facility, helped by Jiva Goswami, to have facility, to have his bhajan kutir right there at the Radha Damodar temple. And so Jiva Goswami also doing seva for him, so that Rupa Goswami can do his bhajan trouble-free right there. And then, of course, after the disappearance of Rupa Goswami, as we know, just opposite his bhajan kutir is his samadhi. That was all arranged. But Jiva Goswami, he made that arrangement for the other Goswamis to come together there at that central point in the middle of Seva Kunj in Vrindavan. And about Guru Maharaj, our temple, and Guru Maharaj's Pushpa Samadhi, then our temple, the land that came to Srila Gurudev in the center of Seva Kunj, it came completely mystically and practically, you can say, forcefully to Gurudev. He did not want it, and he wasn't searching for anywhere in Vrindavan for our devotees' shelter. He already had purchased land literally on the Parikram path. When we do Parikrama, we still remember that land in relation to Gurudev. But this land came to him like forcefully, and Gurudev is trying to think why. He's always thinking the purpose behind it, not always somebody's idea was I have it or something like whimsical, but looking for something behind why it has come. And he's seeing that land was for Guru Maharaj's service. It's not come to him, it's come to him because of Guru Maharaj's service, Srila Sridhar Maharaj. He must be somewhere right close to Rupa Goswami for his service. And our service is engaging in service to Guru Maharaj, who's engaging service to Rupa Goswami. And right there, right beside the very closest samadhi to Guru Maharaj's Pushpa Samadhi there, is the samadhi of Jiva Goswami. And then beside Jiva Goswami,
and
Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami.
That Guru Maharaj said Jiva Goswami showed his reverence for Rupa Goswami, and indicating that his samadhi would be far away, would be a respectful distance. Then in time, the proprietors of that, people would make Pushpa Samadhis, give them some money and put a Pushpa Samadhi. And Guru Maharaj did not approve of that and considered it impertinent. And then there's so many now, like 100 or more. So Gurudev said, I could not talk, because they will approach him also, and it will look bad if he denies. And he said, but I couldn't tolerate that Guru Maharaj will take his place among so many sahajiyas. And then this call came to give, not in that area, but a temple and a major Pushpa Samadhi next to Rupa Goswami's and the Radha Damodar, our Seva Kunj Mat.
Yes, and our Seva Kunj Mat, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat and Mission, Gurudev always referring to it. At the Radha Damodar temple, it is Radha Damodar. It is only kind of formalities that it is different parts or in different names, but it's a Radha Damodar temple zone. So these are just one or two other things that we've heard from Gurudev in relationship to our family and to Jiva Goswami. And
where the dead talked.
Yes.
right, this is what we're referring to, how the temple came forcefully to Gurudev by the wish of the senior persons there in Seva Kunj.
I call it the phone call from Rupa Goswami,
Aha.
just to cut to the chase. And one thing I saw, just to conclude, of Jiva Goswami, just to give like a hint of his interpretive capacity, because like when there are two Varahas mentioned, Sweta Varaha, and a white Varaha and a red Varaha, they're two different avatars, different kalpas. He introduces the kalpado explanation that the two pastimes have been combined as one, about the earth being in the Garbhodak ocean and lifted up by Ra. They're two pastimes. The fight with Hiranyaksha is another one, and they're combined. Jiva Goswami reveals that. But I was reading, and the Gita, there's a very famous verse, Avajananti mam mudha manushintanam aspratam parambhavam ajanato mama bhuta maheshwaram, where Krishna is saying, fool, mudha means asses, deride me when I descend in the human form, like his human-like pastime. But Jiva Goswami says something very interesting. He extracts from there, he says that it also means that, he said, and the devotees in the third class position who put undue emphasis on the Archamurti and neglect the appearance of the Lord in the form of his devotees. Mm-hmm. He's saying they are like mudhas. This is, Bhagavad Gita going on a deeper level. Saying they don't realize the Lord has appeared in other devotees also, and they're ignoring them in the name of Archan. Right? So that gives you a hint of his interpretive capacity. And this Gurudev, like to quote this, Guru Maharaj, it's from Baladev Vidyabhushan in praise of Jiva Goswami, but it's just very beautiful. He says, Yat Sankhya Pankeno Kutarka Panksuna Vibarta Gartena Chulupta Diditim Sudham Vyadad Bhak Sudaya Maheshwaram Krishnam Sajiva Prabhur Astu Megati. Hare Krishna. So Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhu Avirbhav Mahamahosavati Ki Jai. Srila Vamanadev Mahamahosavati Ki Jai. This is the Dwadashi.
Yes.
Right? We told Vaman appeared at the time in astrology called Abhijit, which means, and what you could say, victory now. Right? It's just very auspicious time. So. Hare Krishna. Hari Haraye Namo Krishna Yadavaya Namaha.
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 Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Gopal Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan.
Gopal Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan.
Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan.
Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan.
Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra.
Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra.
Radha Shiva Hari Gaura Bhattavrinda.
Radha Shiva Hari Gaura Bhattavrinda.
Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhattavrinda.
Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhattavrinda.
Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasaravina.
Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasaravina.
Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasaravina.
Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasaravina.
Jai Jai Bodhi Saranamanda. Jiva Goswami Prabhu Avirbhav Mahamahutavati Ki Jai Vishnu Padma Mahandapuri Rajakacharya Satir Sadashri Srimad Srila Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Vishnu Padma Srila Raka Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Bhagavan Srila Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Shri Rupan Guru Varga Ki Jai Shri Rup Sanatan Bhattu Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhattu Das Raghunath Shri Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Jai Sri Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Radha Damodar Ju Ki Jai Gandhara Govinda Sundar Ju Ki Jai Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Rupan Guru Varga Ki Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shyam Radha Kundra Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Shri Radha Damodar Temple Ki Jai Shri Sevakund Ki Jai Shri Gupta Govardhan Ki Jai Ganga Devi Jumana Devi Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Om Vishnu Pad Vishnu Duranga Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Madhacharya Govinda Ki Jai Jai Srila Bhakti Ranjan Madhusudan Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Srila Bhakti Vamanadev Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Sri Paramananda Prabhu Ki Jai Sri Bhakti Lalita Devi Dasi Ki Jai Seva Vranda ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vranda ki jai. Nitai Go Premanande. Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Assembled devotees ki jai. And tomorrow is the appearance day of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and we shall assemble at the same time.